Discover 5 sinister Appalachian mountain horrors that are too terrifying to watch after dark. Anna's heart raced as she stared out into the woods cloaked by nightfall. Tall trees loomed like dark sentinels, their branches twisting in unnatural formations, shadows creeping along the ground like phantoms. The old tales echoed in her mind, legends of lost children, whispers of a witch who lurked in the hills, trading sunlight and laughter for something more sinister. In Maple Hollow, fear took root quickly, spreading through the townsfolk like a vile contagion, especially with the recent disappearance of a little girl. Panic settled into the air, thick as the mist that shrouded the mountains at dawn. Every corner held a suspicious pair of eyes. Now familiar faces seemed to twist and distort, harboring secrets that bounced against the very walls of her small home. Anna thought returning to her childhood town would do her well. But shadows loomed large, swirling in the echoes of her repeating nightmares. Just the other day, a local mother she once knew, Melinda, crumbled into sobs at the market, her voice breaking with the weight of fear as she squirmed under Anna's gaze, mumbling about things lurking in the dark woods. Her panic felt infectious enough to make Anna's gut churn. Things don't just vanish, Anna thought, gripping the shopping cart tighter, pushing away the sense of dread that wrapped around her like a snake. The very air buzzed, charged with unspoken thoughts. Anna quickened her pace home, glancing over her shoulder, feeling the chill of the forest pressing closer. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As twilight bled into the ground, a blood-curdling scream shattered the silence, sending a jolt through Anna's spine. It cut through the calm evening, reverberating in her ears, ghostly echo mixing with the rustle of leaves. She rushed to Jake's room, where he lay sprawled across his bed, wide-eyed, a victim of the same fear that gripped her heart. "We need to go," she breathed, panic ensnaring her lungs. They didn't just face dark woods, they were tangled in a web of lies woven by their community. As they explored the depths of the town's history, lost photographs resurfaced, showing townsfolk once tied to witch trials, afflicted by fear of what lay beyond their little valley. The witch had demanded sacrifices from the town for prosperity, tales of children offered up to satiate a craving older than time, but the most disturbing discovery awaited them. In their neighbor's yard, they found trinkets, old dolls with missing limbs, half-burnt candles, all placed with eerie intent as if summoning the very darkness that had whispered through the town's veins. Anna felt a prickling chill at her nape. Suddenly, the warm feelings of familiarity twisted into something alien. With the sun sinking quickly, the tangible veil of safety dissolved. Now, with an impending dread that pressed like a weight on her chest, Anna faced the ultimate question: what had Maple Hollow become? With fingers trembling and dread trailing in their wake, she and Jake ventured toward the secrets of the woods, unaware that the real horror lay not just in the legends that haunted the dark, but in the very breaths of the people surrounding them. Would they escape the tightening noose of fear that bound them, or would they find out that the nightmares were never just stories? Anna and Jake crept through the doorway, stepping into the heavy night air. The moon hung low, casting a pale glow over the twisted paths that led into the woods. Each step felt like a plunge into the unknown, a descent deeper into a world infused with horror. Anna gripped Jake's hand tightly, his small fingers trembling against hers. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice barely carrying over the rustle of the leaves. They followed the faint trail that veered towards the dense thicket, a path she remembered as a child but now felt echoingly sinister. Memories of laughter filled her mind, but they were quickly drowned out by the oppressive silence that surrounded them. The air thickened, electric with anticipation. A low growl slid through the trees, causing her to freeze. She glanced at Jake, his eyes wide and glistening with fear. "What was that?" he breathed, his voice cracking. "Probably just an animal," she said, but her heart pounded in her chest, matching the rhythm of the trembling underfoot. They pushed on, driven by an inexplicable pull towards the heart of the darkness. Suddenly, a sharp snap echoed through the forest, and Anna's breath caught in her throat. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice rising in pitch. Jake nodded, gripping her hand tighter. They turned, the sound of their echoes swallowed by the looming trees. Anna felt the weight of the woods pressing in on them as they arrived at a clearing, an unfamiliar space they had never explored. The moonlight illuminated remnants of a ritual, a circle of stones arranged meticulously, the remnants of burnt offerings scattered among them. Among the debris lay another doll, grotesque with missing buttons for eyes, entwined in dry vines. "Why would someone do this?" Jake whispered, his voice barely a breath. Maybe this is where Anna hesitated, but she needed to voice the fear spiraling in her mind. Maybe this is where they took her. The name of the missing girl hung heavy between them, a chilling reminder of the darkness that hovered over Maple Hollow. A soft rustle behind them drew their attention, and they spun, hearts racing. A figure emerged from the shadows, hunched and cloaked, the stench of decay clinging to it like a shroud. Fear coursed through Anna's veins as she instinctively shielded Jake behind her. The figure uncoiled, revealing a twisted smile that didn't meet dead eyes. "Lost souls wander here," a voice rasped, as if it had traveled from the depths of night itself. "Join them." Panic surged through Anna, flooding her mind with desperate thoughts. They needed to leave, needed to run, but their legs felt rooted in place. The figure stepped closer, extending a bony hand towards them, beckoning. The darkness yawned, a hungry beast hoping to swallow them whole. "Run!" she shouted, breaking the paralysis that gripped them, and she grabbed Jake's hand, tugging him back into the woods. Bark scratched at her arms as they fled deeper into the trees, the laughter of the haunting figure echoing behind them, reverberating off the warped trunks. They stumbled through the underbrush, breathless, heartbeats loud enough to drown out everything else. "Where do we go?" Jake cried out, fear spilling from his voice. "Anywhere but here," Anna yelled, pushing through the shadows and hoping to find safety in fear and speed. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath them, a pit opening like a mouth ready to swallow them alive. Anna dashed to the side, pulling Jake away just in time as she caught her breath, terror coursing through her bones. "Anna!" he screamed, panic spilling as he looked back at something moving within the darkness behind them. The sight sent another wave of dread crashing over her, but then, in the midst of their chaotic retreat, Anna glimpsed a figure darting through the trees ahead, a glimpse of a girl, pale and sorrowful, caught in the moonlight. Had the stories been true? Was that the lost child? "Wait!" she shouted impulsively, pulling Jake to a halt, but the apparition vanished into the murky depths of the forest. "Anna, we can't," Jake urged, but the pull of that fleeting ghost made her heart beat to a different rhythm. What if they could save her? What if the nightmares were rooted in rescuing something lost? The path faded into darkness ahead, and Anna was torn between the urge to flee and the impossible hope of finding the lost girl. What deeper horrors awaited them as they ventured closer? Would they stumble upon salvation or damnation in these tangled woods? With every pulse of fear coursing through her, Anna knew they had to choose. Would they dare to follow the ghostly whispers, or flee from the shadows altogether? The unsettling question loomed as they clutched each other tightly, knowing that the answers lay just beyond the veil of darkness. Anna's heart raced as she stood at the edge of the clearing, shadows pooling like ink around her feet. The image of the lost girl lingered in her mind, her face pale and glimmering under the moonlight. Was it hope or madness to pursue a flicker of life in this dark tomb of despair? She glanced at Jake, whose wide eyes mirrored her own fear, and felt the heaviness of her decision weighing upon them both. "Maybe she's leading us to safety," Anna suggested, forcing courage into her voice, though she felt it quiver like a leaf in the wind. "And maybe she's a trap." Jake shot back, terror clinging to each word, his grip becoming more desperate, but the air buzzed with an unspoken challenge, drawing Anna forward. She had to know. "Just stay close," she whispered again, feeling the oppressive weight of the unknown pressing against her. As she ventured deeper into the darkness, the trees closed in, their skeletal branches clawing at the sky. Every sigh of the breeze felt charged with something sinister, as if the very woods were alive and watching. A chill danced along her spine. The distant sounds of rustling leaves felt like whispers, secrets exchanged among malevolent spirits lurking just beyond her sight. "Stop!" a feathered voice echoed from the shadows. It was low, haunting, slipping through the thicket like a snake. "Did you hear that?" Jake asked, his voice a breath above a whisper. "Maybe it's the girl," Anna replied. But doubt gnawed at her. What if they followed this path straight into danger? Suddenly, a shadow flitted past, a flicker of white against the dark bark. Anna felt the pull again, but now it was stronger, more insistent. "Come on," she pleaded, her voice shaky, as she darted into the narrow trail that the apparition had taken. Jake hesitated, glancing back toward the safety of the fallen branches and jagged rocks. "I don't like this, Anna. Trust me," she urged, heart pounding fiercely as they broke into a nimble run, each step fueled by mingled fear and determination. The shadows pressed closer, their presence nearly palpable as they wound through the trees. They navigated through the dense underbrush until they stumbled into another clearing, much larger than the last. The ground here was littered with more of those eerie dolls, variations of the grotesque figure Anna had seen before. They stared up at her with hollow eyes, their expressions warped into expressions of grief. The sight twisted her stomach. "Anna, this feels wrong," Jake murmured, his voice shaky. "I know," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "But we can't go back. Not now." The wind roared around them, a frenzied cry that seemed almost human. It swirled through the clearing, carrying a scent of something like burnt wood and decay. "Look!" Jake pointed, shaking with fear. In the middle of the clearing lay an old well, its stones weathered and cracked, a dark void yawning open like a mouth eager to devour. "It might be in there." Anna stepped closer, peering down into the darkness. "Don't!" Jake shouted, pulling her arm. "It's dangerous." There was an eerie silence, the kind that prickled at the back of her neck. Just then, a chilling laughter erupted from behind them, the same twisted sound they had heard earlier. Panic surged through Anna. She turned, and in that moment, just as she prepared to run, Jake's grip slipped. With a scream, Jake was pulled back into the trees, the shadows consuming him as he vanished from sight. "Jake!" she cried, heart tearing in two. "Help me!" His voice echoed, full of terror, ricocheting off the trees and sending a shard of ice through Anna's heart. "Anna, please!" The darkness was shifting, alive with movement. Panic gripped Anna, each breath a battle against the encroaching dread. She couldn't let them take Jake. He was all she had. With her pulse racing and adrenaline surging, she dove into the shadows, desperation igniting her instincts. But what lay waiting for her in that cursed darkness? Would she find Jake, or was she walking straight into the arms of the horrors lurking just out of sight? It was time to confront the night. The question lingered in the air. What would emerge from the shadows to claim them next? Anna's heart pounded in her chest, drowning out the laughter that echoed through the woods. The shadows twisted and coiled around her, hungry and relentless. She pushed forward, limbs trembling, fear clawing at her sanity. "Jake!" she screamed, voice cracking, swallowed almost instantly by the thicket. The trees stood taller here, imposing. Moonlight fractured through the branches, illuminating patches of earth that felt saturated with dread. Anna stumbled over a twisted root, desperate to keep moving, her mind racing against the thoughts of what could be happening to Jake. She had to find him. "Stay together," she muttered, trying to steady her breath. Stay together. Each frantic step felt like a weight, dragging her deeper into the suffocating night. She could still hear whispers, the same feathered voice teasing her, beckoning her towards something she couldn't see. The further she went, the more entangled she felt, as if the forest itself was trying to keep her prisoner. Ahead, the air shifted again. A cold gust rushed past her, and for a split second, everything went still. The laughter returned, a chaotic symphony of torment that resonated in her bones. Anna pressed her palms against her ears, trying to shut it out, but it filtered through like poison. "Jake!" She yelled again, desperation fueling her screams. But only silence answered. Then, she saw it, a flicker of white among the trees. Was it the lost girl, or an illusion conjured by her frantic mind? It stood still, just beyond reach, like a siren waiting to lead her off a cliff. An agonizing choice tugged at her heart: follow the white figure that may or may not be the girl, or continue deeper into the menacing night, searching for Jake. Against her better judgment, she took a step toward the flickering light. "Please," she whispered, pushing her fear down. "I'm not here to hurt you." The figure shifted, and the whispers grew louder, rising into a fever pitch that made Anna's skin crawl. "Come closer," it called. "He needs you." A surge of clarity pierced the fog of terror. This wasn't a savior, it was a trap. Heart racing anew, Anna turned on her heel, running into the stifling Bermuda of darkness. "Jake!" she shouted, fueled by adrenaline. The woods were restless, trees creaking ominously above her. The shadows flickered, and, just like that, her resolve was challenged again. A rush of presence brushed just behind her. She felt it. Something in the abyss was aware of her, toying with her, as if waiting for the moment she would falter. Suddenly, she heard a scream, a blood-curdling sound that seemed to split the night apart. It sparked through her entire being, lighting a fire of fear that was visceral and bright. Jake? She broke through a thicket and stumbled into another clearing, heart in her throat. Fallen branches crisscrossed like bones. The air felt thick, something terrible lingered just above the ground. The moon's light painted everything in cold, stark relief. "Stay with me," she said to herself, fists clenching tightly at her sides. The laughter returned again and again, unrelenting. Anna squeezed her eyes shut, hoping darkness would grant her strength. But when she opened them, she gasped. Before her stood the well, the stones glistening with damp, almost inviting blackened liquid pooling below. The laughter twisted into higher, mocking tones. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her. She staggered, the earth shifting as shadows began to spiral up from the well. They coiled and writhed like serpents, hungry for something she couldn't comprehend. "Go back. Turn around." Her instincts screamed, but her feet were rooted to the spot. As the shadows started to rise, Anna could barely breathe. A pair of cold, hollow eyes glimmered in the darkness below, drawing her closer, beckoning her forward. "Find us," they whispered, echoing Jake's name with a chilling familiarity that pierced through her resolve. "Jake!" she cried one last time before the shadows surged, washing over her in a wave of unrelenting dread. What would she discover in that darkened well? Would Jake be waiting at the bottom, or had she just stumbled deeper into a nightmare? The terror lingered, a shudder racing through the night, as she teetered on the brink of an abyss that threatened to swallow her whole. What had she awakened? The shadows enveloped Anna, swirling like a tempest around her body. She felt cold fingers of darkness brush against her skin, pulling her into the abyss of the well. Panic surged as the darkness constricted her breath, but instinct kicked in. She fought against the cold grip, tearing herself away from the unyielding force. With a desperate gasp, she stumbled back, her heart pounding like thunder in her chest. The well loomed like a gaping maw, and the whispers morphed into an anguished cry, echoing her own fears. "You can't escape," they wailed. She spun around, eyes darting, searching for anything, not just Jake, but something solid in this nightmare. The ground cracked beneath her feet, and she took off running, the laughter still trailing behind her, a haunting chorus that tugged at her psyche. "Jake!" she called again, voice raw and strained. Doubt gnawed at her. Was Jake even in this cursed forest anymore? The laughter pressed in like a vice, teasing her sanity. She stumbled into another clearing, now almost indistinguishable from the last, but the air here felt strangely alive, crackling with an energy that made every hair on her body stand on end. Ahead, an enormous oak tree twisted grotesquely, branches reaching like skeletal fingers. Its trunk was slashed and marred, deep marks etched into the bark as if some wild beast had clawed its way out. Her stomach turned, unease clawing at her mind as she approached. The laughter faded slightly, replaced by a low rumble that resonated deep within the earth. With trembling hands, Anna reached out, brushing her fingers against the rough bark. Suddenly, the ground below convulsed. Roots erupted from the earth, snaking around her ankles like serpents. She gasped as she yanked her feet free, stumbling backward, heart racing. From the depths of the darkness, a figure emerged. It was a distorted reflection of Jake, eyes wide, face pale, twisted in agony. "Anna, help me!" he cried, voice drenched in terror. "Jake!" She rushed towards him, but as her hand reached for his, he dissolved into a cloud of shadow and ash. The ground trembled again, and an overwhelming dread surged through her. The laughter returned, deafening now, echoing all around her. "Jake?" she screamed, her voice lost amidst the chaos. "Where are you?" The shadows flickered, shifting before her like smoke, and an unsettling silence followed. Her heart pounded as she noticed something glistening near the base of the tree. She turned toward it, a chilling realization settling in her gut. It was a small, rusted locket just like the one Jake wore. She picked it up, trembling that in her mind, images flashed Jake's laughter, their shared moments, the warmth of his presence. But the forest twisted those memories too, tainting them with chaos. The whispers sharpened, swirling around her, spinning tales of doom and darkness, 1,000 voices telling her the same thing: he's gone. You will join him. A shadow rose beside her, dark, monstrous, and looming. It blocked out the moonlight, making her feel utterly alone. A frozen pang of fear gripped her heart. There was no time to wish this was a nightmare. Only one thought burned in her mind: escape. She took off in the opposite direction, running with frantic energy, the laughter morphing into a cacophony of screams. But as she dashed through the trees, a light flickered in the distance. It pulsed like a heartbeat she recognized. A way out? A trick? The shadows moved in closer, wraith-like figures rising to chase her. "Find us," they cooed, echoing Jake's voice. "No!" she shouted, pushing herself harder, sprinting toward the light that promised hope or perhaps more despair. Would it lead her towards safety or deeper into the treacherous game that the forest was playing? And just how far was she willing to go to save Jake, or was it already too late? Anna's breath came in ragged gasps as the shadows lunged forward, their chilling whispers a reminder of the fate they had in store for her. Could she outrun them, or were they destined to catch her? Time was running out, and every second felt like an eternity. Where was she really being led? And would she find Jake if he was still alive, or only uncover more unspeakable horrors? The light ahead flickered uncertainly, cutting through the thick mist that swirled like a living thing in the forest. Anna's heart raced, each beat a desperate drum urging her forward. The shadows, slick and sinister, were relentless, drawing closer with every stride she took. She could hear whispers again, blending with the laughter, all of it twisting and turning into an overwhelming noise. "You can't escape." With a fierce determination, Anna pushed the terror from her mind, forcing herself to focus on the pulsing glow. She could make out a figure standing at the source, dimly outlined against the brightness. "Jake," she called, but the voice was swallowed by the oppressive darkness wrapping around her. The shadows lunged, elongated claws grasping at the edges of her vision. Anna ducked and dodged, limbs moving instinctively, adrenaline injecting her legs with a power that felt foreign. She peeked over her shoulder, a myriad of eyes glimmered in the dark, hungry, impatient. "Run!" she urged herself. "Just keep running." The light ahead shifted, revealing a dilapidated cabin hidden between gnarled trees, its wooden frame sagging under the weight of years. A thin wisp of smoke curled from the chimney, beckoning her like an old friend. Maybe it was a sanctuary, or maybe it was a trap. She had no other choice. Slamming into the door, it creaked open with an unsettling groan. She stumbled inside, collapsing against the wall, the door slamming shut behind her. Darkness engulfed her, but the cabin's dim light flickered weakly from a battered lamp on a crooked table. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. No response. Unease crawled up her spine. The walls felt as if they were closing in, laden with the secrets of countless lost souls. Dust hung in the air like long-forgotten memories, and the sharp scent of decay permeated the space. Anna took a cautious step forward, scanning the room. Old photographs lined the mantel, faded faces staring back with hollow eyes, each one seemingly watching her, condemning her presence. She felt their eyes boring into her, and she shuddered. A clattering sound erupted from the shadows, and she whirled around, spine tingling with dread. The kitchen was in disarray, but one object caught her eye: a tarnished silver knife lying on the floor, glinting ominously. "Jake," she whispered, wishing he would just walk through that door, sweeping her into an embrace, pulling her away from the horror. But the silence echoed, reminding her he was lost in this nightmare. Did he ever exist here? Just then, a whispered breath crawled behind her, chilling her to the bone. Anna, it was a voice she recognized. "Jake!" she gasped, turning quickly. Yet it wasn't him, just a twisted shadow cast by the flickering lamp. Panic gripped her gut. The whispers intensified, circling her like vultures. "Find us, join us," they beckoned, filling the room with a sinister harmony. The walls seemed to pulse forward, an invitation to the depths of despair. Anna pressed her back against the wall, desperate for an escape, but the walls absorbed her fear, tightening. The knife, should she use it? Would it offer her protection, or seal her fate? The door trembled, and she turned to face it. A loud bang reverberated, and the shadows outside melded into something solid, an apparition forming in the doorway. It was another replica of Jake, this one equally haunting and flickering, its eyes searching, pleading. "Help me," it whispered. She was frozen, caught between the specter and the encroaching darkness, torn by the choices she had to make. Would she reach for the knife or the apparition? And which would bring her closer to freedom from this nightmare, or deeper into its mouth of horrors? The room spun, the shadows clawing at her reluctance. "What do I do?" she cried, voice cracking under the weight of her choice. Time hung heavy, a momentary pause lingering in the air, allowing the weight of her decision to settle. But suddenly, a loud crash erupted from outside, snapping her back to reality, as the door splintered under the pressure of unidentified forces. The laughter returned, more mocking, more sinister than before. She turned back to the apparition, conviction hardening her resolve. "I'm coming, Jake," she shouted, determination flaring as she lunged back toward the door, but as she reached it, the world around her twisted again. What stood before her? Was it an escape, or another trap waiting to ensnare her? In that heartbeat, uncertainty loomed with a vengeance. Would she step into the night filled with shadows, or remain where she was, a sacrifice in a forgotten cabin? The howling wind echoed with longing and sorrow. And just beyond the threshold, confronted by darkness, she dragged her breath deep, prepared for whatever lay ahead. The door shattered, splinters flying in all directions, and Anna stumbled into the night, breath hitching in her throat. The apparition of Jake faded behind her, vanishing into the shadows, the flicker of hope extinguished in an instant. With the screams of the forest around her, she plunged headlong into the darkness, praying she hadn't sealed her own fate by leaving the cabin. The cold air bit at her skin, and the whispers from the woods echoed louder, a symphony of madness. "Join us," they cooed, taunting, mocking her every step. She could not shake the feeling of icy fingers brushing against her back, urging her to turn around, to look into the abyss that was pursuing her. Anna sprinted deeper into the suffocating mist, adrenaline pumping through her veins, but her mind was clouded with doubts. Where was Jake? Was he here? Was he safe, Or had he become another victim of whatever cursed them? Suddenly, a shadow broke free from the veil, darting across her path. Heart racing, she skidded to a stop. In the distance, she heard laughter, a sweet sound turned wicked, twisting into something dark. It was more than just a voice, it felt like an entity, swirling around her, ready to weave her into its tapestry of despair. Keep running. She scolded herself, forcing her legs to keep moving, every muscle screaming in protest. The trees held a malevolent air, their branches clawing at her clothes as if wanting to drag her back. Ahead, she spotted another light flickering weakly, a silhouette of salvation, or so it seemed. An old cemetery loomed, tombstones jutting from the ground like broken teeth, the earth roiling with malevolent energy. The lamp glimmered from atop a granite pedestal, casting misgivings over forgotten names carved into the stone. Don't stop. Anna urged herself, but curiosity held her firmly for a moment. Was this merely another trap? The weight of the silence pressed against her ears, a stillness that felt wrong in a world teetering towards madness. Anna, a voice echoing across the jagged stone, stopped her cold. Was it real? She peered into the gloom surrounding the graves, but nothing stirred apart from the chilling wind. Anna, it whispered again, much closer this time, coaxing her toward the darkness. With a jolt, she broke free from her trance, stepping closer to the light for guidance. Shadows wriggled behind her, encroaching, as if claiming the ground she had once occupied. She clutched her throat, breaths shallow and sharp, eyes darting around for any sign of approaching danger. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. Was someone watching her? The laughter danced through the trees, occasionally interrupted by the creaking of branches swaying eerily. Then, she caught sight of something, a figure, partially obscured by the mist, a distorted version of Jake. "Help me please," it pleaded, voice dripping with sorrow. It clutched its chest, mouth twisting into an agonizing grimace. Jake? Anna's voice trembled, her heart racing with a mixture of hope and fear. Was this another trick? But the air turned thick with suffocating dread as shadows twisted and writhed at the edges of her vision, and that haunting laughter erupted again. "Join us," echoed in her ears, a chorus of wretched souls tethered to the cold earth. Her instincts screamed for her to run, but the desperation in the apparition's eyes anchored her. What if this was the real Jake? What if he was trapped between this world and the next, calling out for her? Against her better judgment, Anna took a tentative step toward the figure, desperate to grasp whatever sliver of hope remained. The shadows danced provocatively, and the laughter had subsided momentarily, as if holding its breath, but before she could close the distance, a growl erupted from the darkness, low and menacing. The shadows congealed, and she caught the glint of eyes watching her from the blackness. Fear flooded her senses, electrifying her limbs. "Run!" she cried out, breaking the delicate connection, racing away from the graveyard, but the figure remained, pleading amidst the shadows, the din of laughter returning with vengeance. The mist thickened, swirling violently around her, disorienting her direction. Every sound seemed amplified, a drumming in her ears drowning out her rational thoughts. The silhouettes in the woods shifted, more distinct now, closing in, fueling the flames of terror in her heart. Anna stumbled over unseen roots, grasping at the trees for support, isolating herself from the approaching doom, but she felt it, a cold pressure against her back, a premonition that something terrible loomed just behind her, hungry for her fear. Then, without warning, a pair of skeletal hands shot out from the ground, wrapped around her ankles, pulling her toward the earth, deeper into the layers of darkness. She screamed, fighting against their grip, but their coldness gnawed at her will. "Help!" she cried again, the last shred of bravado slipping away like the mist that consumed her. As she fell, time warped into a terrifying moment that stretched, leaving her to wonder, would she join the ghosts of the forgotten, or would she manage to break free from this nightmare? The ground opened beneath her, and as the light faded, the laughter turned into a siren's song, calling her home. The darkness swallowed Anna whole, dragging her into a void that felt like being entombed alive. Her breath came in panicked gasps as the earth gripped her tighter, constricting like a snake. The laughter echoed in her mind, haunting and persistent, reverberating through the emptiness. Join us with every ounce of strength, she fought against the grasping hands, clawing at the cold, clammy soil. Each attempt to break free felt futile, as though the very ground yearned for her to surrender to its desires. "Help!" she cried, her voice a fragile thread weaving through the oppressive silence. The whispering shadows answered with cruel laughter, their sound curling into her ears like smoke. As her body sank deeper into the earth, a flash of light pierced the suffocating darkness, just a flicker, but it steadied her resolve. Her eyes darted around, searching for the source, and through the gloom, she saw it, a glimmering orb gently pulsing, beckoning her. It floated, suspended above the gnarled roots that twisted out like fingers, offering a strange and eerie warmth. But as she reached for it, the hands tightened their vice-like grip, desperate to prevent her escape. "Stay with us," they hissed, their voices dripping with malevolence. The urgency in her heart clashed with the paralysis of fear gripping her body. In that moment of clarity, Anna recalled the words from the legends whispered around campfires, stories of souls lost to the mountain, trapped between realms. "No!" she shouted, summoning all her defiance. "I refuse to join you." The earth shuddered in response, and for a brief second, the skeletal hands faltered. She seized the opportunity to kick and writhe, clawing her way back to the surface with newfound vigor. The laughter turned frantic, fraying at the edges, but it resonated with panic now. "You cannot escape!" it shrieked, but Anna was already clawing towards that flickering light, the orb hovering like a dim promise. With a burst of energy, she lunged, grasping the orb tightly in her trembling hand. Instant warmth flooded her, igniting her courage as the ground beneath her roared in anger. The hands released her with a shriek, as a wave of energy surged through her body. The pulsing sphere illuminated the surroundings, casting away the shadows. Suddenly, the skeletal hands began to retract, dragging back into the earth as if tormented by the light. She scrambled upward, pulling herself free, her body now energized by the orb's essence. The pale glimmer radiated, cutting through the haze of darkness, but as she stumbled into the clearing, panting, and heart racing, the laughter morphed into a chilling silence. No longer her tormentor, it transformed into a haunting whisper. "You think you're free? You're only just beginning." Behind her, the ground writhed, and shadows slithered back to life, swirling around the cemetery once more. Glancing back, Anna felt her heart drop. "Jake!" she screamed, realizing the apparition had vanished, leaving behind the suffocating fear and unrelenting nightmare. The shadows shifted again, and a new figure emerged, a gaunt silhouette, shrouded in darkness yet vaguely human. The face was obscured, but the glimmering menace in its eyes pierced through the gloom, locking with hers. "Are you ready to join us?" it hissed, the voice curling around her like a sinister embrace. Anna took a step back, dread pooling in her stomach. She had escaped the grave, but was she truly safe? Time stretched, and she knew she had only moments before the malevolent forces began to reclaim her. The orb flickered in her hand, its light dimming. Would it guide her or lead her deeper into despair? With the oppressive darkness closing in, she had to think fast. "What do you want?" she shouted, her voice trembling, desperation clawing at her throat. The figure chuckled darkly, stepping forward. "We want you to choose." The shadows roared, and just as terror gripped her, the light of the orb extinguished. Darkness swallowed her whole once again, plunging her into another world of torment, choices, and the sinister laughter of beings far beyond her comprehension. The chill of despair wrapped around Anna like a suffocating shroud. She stood in pitch blackness, the weight of her choices pressing down, making it difficult to breathe. Panic surged within her. There was no denying the power of the shadows closing in, pulsating with hungry anticipation as if they could taste her fear. "What have I gotten myself into?" she gasped, the words barely escaping her lips. "I won't become one of you." With newfound determination, she closed her eyes, focusing on the orb, the last shred of hope within her grasp. It had been the light that guided her once, and perhaps it would do so again. But in the depths of the dark, she felt a crackling energy igniting outside the boundaries of her consciousness. The ominous laughter echoed, deeper and crueler, drowning out her resolve. "Choose, join us," the voices taunted, each repetition infusing more dread into her veins. Anna shook her head, fighting to regain her footing. "What do I have to choose?" Her voice wavered, revealing the tremor of her heart. "I'm not like you." The gaunt figure began to morph, its limbs extending and twisting grotesquely, elongating until it seemed like a distorted shadow clawing at reality. The menacing eyes glowed bright, illuminating the darkness like twin suns. The shadows swirled faster, tendrils extending outward as they closed in around her. "Choose your soul's fate," it rasped, each word dripping with malice. "Join the lost, or face oblivion." The clarity of her situation struck Anna like a tidal wave. Being part of the undead, forever wandering as a hollow shell in this nightmare wasn't an option. But was oblivion any better? She thought back to Jake, to the life she loved. To the warmth of sunlight on her face and laughter that echoed through her home. The shadows were desperate to swallow her whole, but she refused to yield. "No. I will not choose death," Anna shouted with a power she didn't know she possessed. The orb in her hand flickered back to life, and with every heartbeat, it pulsed hotter, spreading warmth across her freezing skin. The shadows recoiled, their whispers turning to snarls. The gaunt figure stumbled back, a mixture of rage and confusion painting its features in the dim glow. "You think your spirit burns fiercely enough to resist us?" In response, the light from the orb intensified, pushing back against the darkness, and for a brief moment, she saw the figures trapped within the faces of the lost. They clawed at her, their eyes wide with despair. It was a haunting reminder of what she could become, and a chilling chill filled her heart. "Help them." A voice broke through the air. It wasn't clear who had spoken, but the sound was filled with urgency and desperation that echoed with Anna's own fears. But the gaunt figure laughed with insanity. "They belong to us now. You can't save them, and you can't save yourself." The shadows surged forward, a tidal wave of dark intent meant to sweep her away. Anna gripped the orb tighter, a surge of acceptance washing over her. She understood she could not save everyone, but she could save herself. She closed her eyes once more, channeling her thoughts. In an explosion of willpower, she raised the orb high, flooding the surrounding darkness with blinding light. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of torment pouring out as they fought against the brilliance. With a deafening roar, the darkness ripped apart around her, fragments of the malignant energy scattering into the void. But the escape was not without a cost. A shriek pierced the air, wailing of 1,000 souls forgotten, clawing for freedom. As the light consumed everything around her, Anna felt herself tugged forward, sucked into a brighter expanse. She landed on soft grass, panting, the orb glowing faintly beside her, but relief was fleeting. In the distance, shadows loomed, steadily regrouping, like a storm on the horizon. It was then she noticed the figures emerging beside her. They were her friends, faces twisted in agony. Jake stood among them, eyes hollow and lifeless. He reached out with a hand, whispering through clenched teeth, "Help us, Anna, join us." Anna's heart dropped, realizing the choice before her was even darker than she had imagined. Would she choose to help them or protect herself? The shadows' laughter returned, deeper, more menacing, promising the forsaken torment of a choice she could never escape. With time slipping away, Anna's resolve began to falter. The embodiment of her fear faced her once more. The darkness coiled around her heart. Would the light be enough to interrupt the cycle? Or would her choice spell an end to everything she loved? The whisper of shadows beckoned. Choose. The weight of her decision was overwhelming. And in that moment, Anna knew something inside her was breaking. A laugh echoed deep within her, familiar, cruel, like a mirror shattering her very essence. The truth she had feared would soon reveal itself, drowning her in darkness once again. Anna clutched the orb, light pulsing erratically as shadows writhed around her. The faces of friends and family glimmered in the gloom, twisted and begging. Jake's voice floated above the din, chilling her to the bone. "Join us." "No. Anna screamed, heart racing. She stumbled back, eyes darting. I can't lose you. I can't. Help us, they echoed, a chorus of sorrow intertwining with laughter that rang cold and mocking. The shadows hungered closer, an insatiable tide, panic surged within her, the urge to flee, to escape the chilling embrace of despair clawed at her. But there was something deep in her heart, a wellspring of love, a tether pulling her back toward the faces of those she knew. They were lost, yes, but forwarding into the oblivion that the shadows promised would consume them in a way worse than death. A flickering thought pierced through the chaos. If she had saved herself, could she not also save them? But could she even save herself, knowing the truth of it all? With a sudden surge of defiance, she straightened, grounding herself in the warmth of the orb. I won't give in. She shouted, pushing the swirling shadows from her mind. You don't own us. The glow of the orb brightened, its light flooding the space as if it had a life of its own. The faces of the lost individuals momentarily transformed, their screams faltering in disbelief. The shadows recoiled, but still, they reached for her, hungry for despair. Fight! A voice cried from within the crowd. It turned familiar. Melinda, the mother who had first shown Anna the fear gripping the town. Her eyes glimmered, pleading yet strong. You can do this. Fight! Anna echoed, rallying against the oppressive force. Jake! I'm not leaving you. The orb's radiance surged, channeled by Anna's refusal to let darkness win. She stepped towards the apparitions, hands stretched out, every ounce of her being focused on those hollow eyes. You are not lost. You can break free. The orb flared brighter, blinding the shadows for a moment. As the light crashed through their tangled form, the faces of those she loved became clearer. Each lost soul shimmered with confusion, then recognition. It was as if the warmth she was giving ignited a glimmer of hope deep within them. Anna. Jake whispered again, louder this time. We are with you. With renewed strength, Anna pressed forward, the orb held high above her head, light flooding the clearing. The shadows screamed, twisted, and frayed at the edges as if they were being torn apart. Join us. They hissed, but she felt the belief of her loved ones surround her. It made her bolder. Never. She shouted. The ground trembled, shaking beneath the weight of the confrontation between light and shadow. With a fierce resolve, Anna drew upon the energy of the orb and flung it towards the shadows, the brilliance cutting through like a blade. You will not take them. The explosion of light bathed the clearing in warmth, a radiance that seemed to shatter the encroaching darkness. For a moment, everything stood still, time suspended as the explosive light expanded, breaking the grasp of despair. The shadows screamed, losing their form as Anna surged with power and love. The light sank deep into the ground, and as it did, the shadows began to disintegrate, screams of rage merging into the air until there was nothing left but calm, and then, after a moment of serene silence, the harshness evaporated, exposing a canvas of stars shimmering brightly against the dark sky. Slowly, Jake stepped forward, his figure reshaping into a delicate light. Anna, he whispered. You did it. You saved us. The ground gradually softened at their feet. Anna fell to her knees, tears streaming down her cheeks. I thought I lost you, she murmured. He was here, truly here, a warmth flooded through her. Then slowly, one by one, others from the forest emerged, friends lost to the darkness, and together they stood in this newfound peace. The shadows that had once lurked were gone, and the faint echo of laughter had long since vanished. Still trembling, Anna found Jake's hand, squeezing it tight. What now? She whispered, glancing back at the dark woods. Now, he said, tugging her toward the path that lay ahead, we return home. Together. Relief washed over her, heavy but welcome. They began walking, side by side, knowing that the heart of Maple Hollow could finally heal. The air felt lighter, as if the woods, once a suffocating net of fear, had released this tight grip on their town. I want you to know, Anna began, I'll never give up on you or any of them again. Jake nodded, determination etched on his face. Me neither. We'll share our story. We will bring light to the darkness. As the path unfolded before them, a new chapter was birthed. Frightening truths had been faced, but together they would weave hope. The woods whispered a new tale, a fresh beginning that freed them from the echo of despair, and with that, Anna stepped forward, into a future where the shadows held no sway. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. You need to smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even 1 second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support for the journey we're on together.